Good morning. Welcome.
Hello, hello.
Welcome. I finally got you here after months of conspiring.
Yes, I'm so excited.
So good. All right, really quickly, to those who don't know, I have the amazing Janessa J champagne with me. And if you haven't checked out her show before, you should. She's here on YouTube. There is a link in the description. Toys, makeup, horror, and just Janessa J's world. I think that's an accurate
Just
description.
randomness.
So it's everything you need in a YouTube channel. And she has agreed to be here with me coloring today. I'm
Hello.
going to be a little fangirly, guys. I apologize for that ahead of time. And really quick, Andrew, our friend from Gady's Toys, Sundays are for church and champagne. So
Hello, Andrew. I love Andrew's channel as well.
Andrew is a maze. One of my friends, or like
Oh, no.
friends. The miracle of what can happen through this kind of a platform. Good morning, Nolan. Nolan, you may not know this. Nolan, when he arrives in chat, you have been officially coronated as part of ToyTube. So we've
Oh,
arrived for the day.
hello.
Hello, Kenzo. Kenny, good afternoon. Also a great channel. One of my friends also, Miss Dion. I bet this is one of
Dion.
your fans,
Yes,
our
hey,
friend.
Dion.
I just had the clueless. Hello, Miss Dion.
Yeah.
In my head. And then let's see. Oh, it's everyone saying hello.
Hello,
And
hello.
then my good friend Mint with Card also just started a channel, so go check that out, everyone. And Ria Black, hello, welcome,
Hello,
lovely to see
hello.
you. So yeah, that's we've got the usual crew is here. It feels weird to call people the crew. At my age, a cavalcade of old people have arrived. So
I love it.
yeah. Shady Acres, Ma, Shady Acres. So I found Janessa because Golden Girl and the Guardians of the Gemstone. There's not a lot out there. While searching, I found your channel, so I'm gonna color some Golden Girl today to honor how we just how I discovered you and was like, I need to be all up in this bitch's comments. And I'm gonna start with the really weird Solara appearing to Golden Girl in a drink. What are you gonna start with?
So I have some Golden Girl as well, but I
Excellent.
also I'm sorry I'm gonna knock into this microphone
Um,
every 5 minutes. So I do have a big old jade. I accidentally printed this at
oh,
11 by 17, so it's a little out of
fancy. Well,
control.
go
But
big or go home.
Jade is my favorite character, and so I was like, let's get some Jade. And I love green. Green is my favorite color, so I
Yeah.
thought that could be fun. And then I've got a gem page of the Twilight in
Ooh,
Paris
yeah.
fashion, which is my favorite fashion. And actually, I have a video that's going to be coming out of my gem collection.
Ooh.
And
Okay.
we're going to see I have Twilight in Paris on a doll, and I also have it in the package. So,
I will before we
very
end.
excited to talk about some gem.
I had my birthday was recently, and we went to an antique mall and I found a naked Synergy. But her head and her hair is in really good shape, so she'll
Nice.
be fun. So anyway, yeah, Gem is exciting. Gem is excitement and adventure. So
I mean, she's truly, truly, truly outrageous.
truly, we
Although
just
I kind of agree that the Misfits, their songs were better.
they are a little bit better.
I'm a
They were
Pizzazz fan.
Pizzazz was pretty good. I always liked Stormer. I don't know why.
I like Stormer as well.
I always felt like that she didn't know who she was, so like she was so
Yeah. She was the nice one of the Misfits.
yeah, she was kind of nice, but
And was
not
she the one
Pizzazz.
who couldn't read? Or was that Roxy? I can't remember.
Yeah, I definitely have to have you and Andrew here together at some point because Andrew does a really great. I never learned to read from Gem. So, good morning, Sight Beyond Sight. Welcome, lovely to see you.
Hello.
We've got Bradazzle. Hello,
Hello.
and good morning, CJ. So, um, all right. Um, exactly. I wear too much pink on this channel, but when I'm in green, you can
Yeah.
actually tell I have ginger hair.
I was very tempted to do a green eye look in celebration of Jade,
Oh,
and but I
that would
decided
have been amazing.
purple pink.
Well, I did extra gold, so I was like, I'm gonna gold it up a lot because I've got somebody super fabulous and Golden Girl, and you know,
Yeah, I wanted very 80s like neon arcade girl kind of look.
yeah.
So
I almost dug out my box of wigs to break out the. I have a hot pink, one of those little curly like what do they call it? Like for the Lolita look, the little bangs with the
oh yeah.
curls, and I was like, I should dig that out, and then I'm like, then I'll look like Shirley Temple from Hell, and then I'm like, oh, but that's in the box of stuff that I'm not touching until the studio set up. So I'm like, no wigs, we'll gold it up.
We may have a wig change during the show because this wig
Oh,
is a lot. This is like a double
yeah,
stack.
yeah.
And I have a backup waiting
Okay.
down right there. So when I get sick of this, I may suddenly like
I
just
would be honored to have a wig change happen.
you have to have a wig reveal.
Yeah,
It's
like
part of any
we'll
show.
do it. No, like no, that's absolutely fabulous. Let's do it. Wait, sweetie darling, let's do it.
And I don't have colored pencils, but I have these markers
Ooh.
that I bought. I was on a little bit of a journey where I had this boss. It's a long story, but she was kind of a nut and she drove me crazy. And I was on a work trip. And so I decided to go buy an adult coloring book and some markers. And then I hated it so much because it was so fussy and like it was one those little mandalas where it's like the
Yeah,
little tiny. And then I found one that was a little bit easier to color and it had swear words on every page. And I
yeah.
was like,
I've got
oh,
I've
I
got
was like,
both
this
of
is for me. I
those.
just had to find the right thing.
Yeah, that's the adult coloring pipeline there. Somebody gives you a book of mandalas and you're like, this is so much. And then
It's
of
so
course there's
much.
always the people who are like, but I love them. They're so relaxing. And it's like, well, we love this for you.
Yeah,
For
I'm
the
happy
rest of
that that
us,
works for some people. It does not work for me. It
good luck
stresses
with
me out
that.
more.
Yeah, same. And it's like, and then you mess one up and then your pattern and like it's too much. For a long time, I made fun of adult colorists because it was just my own insecurity for being unable to achieve a mandala. And then my friend was like, "Oh, you've got the wrong stuff." I'm like, "What do you mean?" She's like, "Here, have this," and it was one of the swear word ones. I'm like, okay, this is good. And then
Yeah,
I was still
delightful.
working in an office at the time, and I did the one that was "See you next Tuesday," and I left it on my coworker's desk on my way out on my last day.
I love
I
it.
think she finally figured out why every day when she would leave, I was like, "I'll see you next Tuesday." She's like, "But today is Wednesday and I work tomorrow." I'm like, "Oh, I know. See you next Tuesday, Brenda."
See you next Tuesday.
No, don't let the door hit you where the devil licked you.
Yeah, I firmly believe Anne Lamott has a great quote where she says, "You own your stories. Tell them if people wanted you to write warmly about them, they should have behaved better." And I live by that. Like, if you want me to say nice
Oh,
things about you, you better do nice things.
I love that. I'm adding that to the repertoire. Uh, so this so in researching Golden Girl, which is again how I found well twofold how we'll get to the second part of it. Um, the fact that her name is Golden Girl, it's not like Judy and everyone calls her Golden Girl. Her name is just Golden Girl. Like
It's just Golden Girl. Yeah.
I feel like in the moment where she was born and she comes sliding out covered in afterbirth and whatnot, her mom was like, "Golden Girl, do it."
Yep.
Like what? I mean, like I'm hoping the rest of her because she comes from a tribe who we never meet and never see.
Yeah,
I'm
nomadic
wondering if
tribe.
like Sparkle Tits and like what the rest of the tribe's name are. Silver Lad. That would have been wave three. Wave three would have been like the people from Golden Girls Village have returned.
Yeah. Where they're really scraping the bottom of the barrel and they're just like, who can we throw
Yeah,
in here?
Copper Grandma arrives.
Yeah.
I don't know, the Wave 2, you've seen the Wave 2 pictures, well, Andrew did a video, so I'm gonna assume you have.
I
But, like,
have,
all those
yes.
cool, like, turquoise and, Spydra.
Spydra. I'm very sad we did not get that character.
But what's
She looks very
also
cool.
super sad is when you at the same time, Mattel, when they were working on the final wave of, Princess of Power, one of the they also had a Spydra character that they were planning on who would be sort of like Flutterina or like Web Store from Masters of the Universe, where she'd have a backpack, and instead of the
Oh,
wings flapping, it would be spider legs that sort of moved as she climbed up the wall.
that would have been very cool.
Yeah. So thanks, Mattel, for ruining our childhoods even more.
Yeah, and then I do love the TV show The Golden Girls, but it makes researching Golden Girl
Yep.
so difficult because Google is always just like,
Oh yeah.
I think you meant Golden Girls. I'm like, no, I didn't. Thank you for telling me my life, but I
It
did
yeah,
not.
it does the same thing for me, and it's like I can see why you would based on my interests, I can see why you would make that mistake. But
Yeah.
trust me, Google, I know what I typed. And also to answer your question, Andrew, yes, this is one of the rare tents that she's sleeping in. Because coloring books actually the copyrights on them. This is the fun part of my weird OCD about old toy lines. All of the coloring books were released in 1987. They all have copyright
Oh,
1987 in them. So these books never had a chance, y'all.
yeah.
Toy line was dead for at least 2 years. Even at KB, they were mostly gone at this point. So,
Yeah, I
my
remember. I think I got a Golden Girl coloring book at a dollar store, and it
yeah,
was years after the line had been
yeah.
discontinued. And
Well, I got like because I've got them in digital form, and I've got the actual physical copies, and I bought them on eBay like 5 or 6 years ago at this point. And I've never seen one that doesn't have like the discount store stickers on them.
yep.
So I'm feeling like they went straight to like the general dollar store of the day.
And that's wild because let me tell you, some people on eBay, I understand that you're like preserving the past or whatever, but the
Yeah.
gall of people to sell a like book that's got a 2 for $1 sticker on it and they want like $50. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you could at least remove that sticker before you try to fleece me of all my money.
It's
I'm gonna give you
what
my money, but I want you to take
yeah.
the sticker off.
Well, it's to me with the Golden Girl, like I just waited until somebody did all three of them for like $25 plus shipping. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
there we go. But there was some asshole on there who was like had a set of three for $75.
Yeah.
I'm like, sir, there are 17 other listings that are cheaper. And two, like, there are 7 of us that are buying these things. It's not like there's a
Yeah.
huge audience for this one. 7 of us buy from those other people. And that dude's books are still there. He's marked them down since, but it's that weird thing where it's like some people think just because they have a vintage item, it's worth a lot. And it's like, sir, it
Yeah.
is
So
not.
because it's
Like,
old, it has to be expensive.
I run into that a lot with coloring books where they're like, this is super rare. And it's like, it's super rare because I'm the only person who's going to buy this from you. And I'm not going to spend that much money when half of the FM book is colored. Like a
Yeah.
pristine book, I will spend too much on if it's never been touched because it's easy to scan those and then clean it up. But, like, for instance, you're a gym girl. Once you're a gym girl, you're never the same. So I recently got this lot, right? $85 for the
Ooh.
whole lot, free shipping. Not bad, right? Most of these are in pretty good shape. Paint with water, missing one page, but otherwise not even painted in water,
Oh,
which
nice.
is hard. It was worth it. This one has some coloring in it. I don't care about the mazes. I don't do anything with those. And at least this one is colored nicely, right?
Yeah.
And this one reuses pages, so the colored stuff in here I have uncolored in other books. Where's it at? It's this, and this one I've got another copy of that's uncolored. I've got it digital from Retro Reprints. They really liked Pizzazz though, because like literally they went through the
She's
whole
the
book
best.
and colored her hair green in every page. Like literally half this book is not colored until you get either the entire page is colored or just her hair. So, but like this one is over, like over 60 to 70% colored. And I, again, it was a pretty good deal for the
Yeah.
lot. But I've seen books colored badly of that particular gem book where people are like, it's going to be $70. Like,
Yeah, where their feral children have just like rubbed crayon all over it
yeah.
and get out of here.
Somebody was trying to charge at one point, and my friend Muriel, I wish, she's overseas. She left the United States for reasons about 5 years ago, and she used to join me on these when she could. It's harder now with her schedule, but the Barbie and the Rockers, the first one, I was looking online for the book to buy it, and some little bitch named Becky had gone through. And Dee Dee is one of the few black Barbie characters who isn't Christy or just Barbie with blackface, right?
Yeah.
And little bitch Becky had gone through the entire book and colored Dee Dee as a white girl. I was like, and the dude was trying to charge like $70, and I'm like, one, your coloring book has become racist.
Yeah,
And
you're trying
two,
to
like,
charge me for a hate crime.
and then two, Becky could not color. Like, you need to talk to your 5-year-old. I know she's like 70 now, but please.
Becky had problems.
Oh, Becky has problems always. I mean, like, she wanted to be Rebecca, but she's still Becky.
For some reason, what I remember as a kid, I didn't remember any of the like heroic characters from Golden Girl, but I had all 4 of the villains because they were so cool. They were so interesting. Vultura and Wild One were my favorites.
I remember
I love
Wild
the Wild
One and
One.
Moth Lady from the shelves. For whatever reason, all of my stores had like Ogar and Prince Chroma, and they would have Onyx. So like Onyx was always. I never got any of the Golden Girl because I went hard on Princess of Power. It was also at that point where my parents were like, "I think you're a little old for toys." So I hate children, but I babysat quite a bit that year, so I could buy the entire Wave One. I mean, I don't hate them. I just don't want them.
I just don't want them in my zip code.
Yeah, and
I'm fine if they exist theoretically.
And I'm far more mild about this at this age than I was when I was like 10, and 11 and 85. So like, but back then it was just like people would call and like, do you want a babysit? And I'm like, no. And they're like, but it's money, and I'm like, yeah, I don't need money that. My dad was making pretty good money at that point.
Yeah.
But
can you just give me money and not make me spend time with your children?
Yeah, right. I'll come over and talk to you. I was that kid who would like go over to people's houses with my parents and then sit and talk to the adults. And they'd be like, you should go play with the children. I'm like, but your kids are boring.
Yeah.
And they have shitty toys. Please, no. You expect me to go in there and play with the loving family dolls with little Brittany? No.
So the one thing about this page that I'm gonna have to fix myself is that
she doesn't have
I love this outfit, but like a lot of the gem dolls, because their fashions were unhinged. I loved it. She's supposed to have one stocking with a little heart on it. Like it's supposed to have a little heart charm. And they didn't include that on the picture, so we'll have to add that.
I did one of my first gem coloring shorts like decades ago was that page, and I included the sock. And I swear the only reason that short went to 1,000 views was because I colored the sock, the stocking. Yeah, the coloring book. That's the one thing that pisses me off about that book is the fashions aren't quite right, and I can't always tell what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So anyway, dude coloring the coloring book in 1985. I hate you. You make my life worse. Yeah, definitely.
Now
I
I'm
have
willing
to.
to correct it, but as a kid, I always felt like I had to color what was in the book.
Yeah.
I have a little bit of I have some low level OCD where I've got all the like triggers, like I understand them now and I am better at managing them. But as a kid, like that was not going to happen. I was not going to be like changing the coloring on the on the
Yeah,
page.
no, I was very much rule oriented. That was the hard part. That was one of the first pages I sort of had that issue with, where I'm like, I need to fix it. It took a while before I got to a point where I was willing to like change the art and stuff.
Yeah.
And it really took me finally sitting back and being like, these are coloring books somebody made in the 1980s as their day job. Like there was a, you know, like they might have, oh, this is a pretty good page, but this was not somebody's like art project where like, I'm going to take this to the gallery and make millions of dollars. It was like, this was a paycheck. And the more pages they got done, the better.
Yeah.
And half the time they were just working with production. So they may not have even added the sock whenever it was the stocking sock when it was time to do the like art for it. Hasbro was like, we can afford a little extra on this. Let's throw a stocking in there with a decal on it. And also, hello to Duchess of Darkness. I'm going to assume everyone here knows who Duchess is. If you don't, go watch her channel. She does horror narration.
Oh,
it's great. You would adore it, I bet. Like right up your alley. And she does really unhinged stories. It's perfect. Often when I'm working on filming pages, I'm listening to terrible things and her amazing narration. And hello, Dave. How are you, Dave? Have you survived your 24-hour streamathon? Dave and his co-host of his podcast, Jaye, did a 24-hour Walk for the Cure cancer stream to raise money, and I got up at 5:30 a.m. It was like 2:30 my time, so I technically would normally be up, except I fell asleep in my chair, and then I colored till 5:30 my time for the kids. So although I don't like kids, I don't want them to have cancer and die.
Yeah, I don't want anything bad to happen to children per se.
No, yeah.
I just want them to exist elsewhere.
Yeah, once they hit like 10 years old and they can have a full conversation where I don't have to like, oh, it's sweet that you don't understand how things work fully. But again, to be fair, I have a lot of adult relatives I don't talk to for the same reason. So maybe it's not just a kid thing.
Yeah. I prefer to wait till they're like 25.
Yeah,
and then that's good enough.
Yeah, that's a good time for the kids. But, oh, good. Dave survived. That was really cool that you guys did that, Dave, though. It was a lot of fun, and I had hoped to jump back on, but I was just, after that, I'm too old for that much activity. I'm just like, I stayed in bed and then got up and did laundry. And then I did film some stuff, but I don't have to be presentable or friendly for filming. That's why there's music over so much of it.
Yeah.
I'm usually sitting here cussing somebody or watching a YouTube video about true crime, and it's like, it's the husband. It's the husband. It's always the husband.
And then can we talk about how the structure of those programs is always like they talk about how sketchy the husband is and how like he's doing all this weird shit, and it's always like, and then it's like, who could it have been?
My favorite,
you'll never guess what we discovered. And I'm like, I can guess because it's the husband, because it's always.
My favorite is when they overdo those things. Like Crime Junkies is the worst. If I ever am murdered, and I'm saying this to you and to everyone, aw, that's perfect.
Now she's got her little stocking with her little heart.
Now it's good. I'm saying this to you, Janessa, Jaye, and to everyone in chat. If I'm ever murdered, one, you have to make sure that justice happens, even if it means taking it into your own hands. But two, do not let Crime Junkies cover the crime. Because I will roll over in my well, hopefully I'm in one piece so my whole body rolls together. But the second that Brit girl goes, I got full body chills. I will no, I cannot.
Oh
I
no.
cannot.
Oh.
No. I listened to them for a while when I was thinking about doing a true crime podcast, and I was like, I can't do this because I'm gonna just make fun of them for the entire. And you would think that, like, because the host Ashley is like, you would think that the police would be right on top of that, but they weren't.
But they
It's like,
weren't.
ma'am, it's been 24 hours. There's still a missing person. How are they supposed to be right on top of that? Like, nobody's even reported them. Somebody saw their car with the door open and nobody's called the cops. How are they going to be right? Okay, Ashley. Okay.
I don't watch a lot of true crime just because all it does is make me angry at the police. Because
Yeah.
anytime I watch something, it's always like mishandled or they knew. I watched there was like a 4-part little everything's a docu-series now. We can't just have a
Oh, yeah.
documentary, we have
We
to have a
can't do
docu-series. But it
no.
was on the Tylenol killer in the 80s.
Oh, my God. Right?
And like they had him in for questioning several times. They had like all this evidence. And then you go in and find out his history that he had like murdered his neighbor in
Yeah.
like the 60s or the 70s. He was charged with fraud in the 70s, all of these different things. So he had a huge criminal record. And then they were just wandering around like, who could be doing this? And then like they found all this stuff that pointed to him and they're like, who could be doing
I
this? And I'm like,
know. I was.
I am a drag
And then
queen on my couch. Why am I better at this job than you
and
are?
then he sued people for saying it was him. So now when podcasts cover it, they're like, allegedly.
Yeah.
We can't say that it's him or we'll get. I'm just like, this is unhinged. Yeah, that one is particular. I remember, I don't know. I'm going to assume because Golden Girl were roughly the same age group. We're both Gen X,
Yep.
elder millennial. I remember when that was happening, and this is my mom for you. She's like, well, we don't do Tylenol anyway. It's too expensive. We'll just stick to Excedrin. That was my mom for you guys. That was the
Nobody was
sophisticated.
poisoning the store brand.
Yeah, nobody's. It's always the time. She's like, we can't afford that. We could at the time, which was what was hilarious, was we could afford the Tylenol, and I wanted Tylenol because I'm like, it's the name brand. We should be getting the good stuff, mom. Although I say that, and I still to this day, when I go to the grocery store, I'm like, yeah, we can just get the name brand. I mean, we can just get the store brand. It doesn't matter.
Yep.
Until it does. Store brand Pringles, absolutely not.
No.
It's got to be the real thing.
Yeah.
Store brand Twinkies, absolutely not. You need that chemical aftertaste of sugar hitting your bloodstream and dissolving into like pure crack cocaine.
Yeah. Oh.
Let's see. I'm going to check in with chat. I'm sorry, you guys, but I'm excited. I'm starstruck. I have somebody I enjoy quite a bit here with us today. Not that I don't enjoy the rest of you. Some of you have been on the show, but you guys know what I mean. All right, cool.
And I don't have my glasses on, so like I'm kind of trying to glance at the chat, but I also can't see anything.
That's
so like, oh.
Hello, Alex. Welcome. I'm sorry.
Hello.
I think you said hello earlier and I missed it. So I apologize. Yeah, there we go. Oh gosh, we missed. I'm gonna read this. I apologize to everyone's ears, but I don't want Janessa to have to strain too much. Andrew, my name is Sperm Dumpster. My power is, well, not safe for work. Sorry, Andrew. I'm surprised he's here with us and not down at the docks right now waiting for sailors.
Yeah.
It's Fleet Week 24/7 in Canada.
That's right.
But yeah, we're far enough in. We can get away with the sperm dumpster joke.
That's right. I used to go to Canada a lot. I haven't been for a couple of years, but I live really close to Winnipeg, and so, which I understand is like the white trash of Canada. So anytime I mention like, oh, I go up to Winnipeg, it's a lot of fun, and they're like, you go to Winnipeg, and I'm like, it's what's available.
Right. It's
like
Canada,
2 hours
guys.
away.
It's like for Americans, any low North American middle, the middle child, we're the vanilla and the Neapolitan.
Yeah.
Canada is exotic. Any part of Canada, even like I went to Vancouver, British Columbia. When I was when I lived in Portland, it was a lot. Like it's not even a full day trip. Like 6-7 hours by car, which seems like a lot to people. But I grew up in the South, where you had to drive an hour and a half through alligators to get to a grocery store that wasn't
Yeah.
like $17 in 80s money for like eggs, milk, and a box of cereal.
Yeah.
And I went, and I was just, as soon as you cross the border, it's like everything is so beautiful. And I mean, it's technically probably the same, but there's just something magical about Canada when you're from the US. I don't know
I
if
loved
that's
it.
all.
And when I was first getting started with drag, I was kind of a broke college student. So
Yeah.
everything I had for makeup was drugstore, Walmart. But then I would save my money and I would go up to Winnipeg and I would go to the MAC counter. And
Ooh.
that was always like a special treat when I got to go to the MAC counter and get like a Viva Glam lipstick or, some eyeshadow or whatever. And that was the thing.
We didn't. I mean, I'm sure they have Mac and where I grew up in the area in Texas where I live now, or at least you can get some Mac at Walmart and the drugstores. But I remember when I moved to Portland, my friend was like, "Oh, girl, let's go to Mac." And there is just nothing like your first trip to a Mac cost, and the first time like
Yeah.
you get somebody to do your face at Mac, it was just like, oh my god. If I could afford a makeup artist, I would 100%. I would have far fewer. I'm not even putting on lipstick and eyeshadow or mascara today days. If I had a makeup artist, I would 100% be Katy Perry getting out of the rocket. But instead of kissing the ground, it's like, fix my face, Bernice.
Yeah.
Mint Card wants to go to Manitoba. Well, it's got man in the title, Mint Card, so I think that's a little bit of it. And then there are hell yeah, there are sailors. There are bears dressed as sailors. Both kinds, right? Both kinds of bears. Oh, Kenzo wants us to know he enjoys new print. It's little, yellow, different, better.
Better.
So Kenzo was on the stream for the Dave and Dre, and he 80s bombed us with NESTLES. And it was like after that I could not get that jingle out of my head.
Oh, yeah, sometimes I go back and watch old commercial compilations and
Yeah.
it's half nostalgia and half PTSD. I mean, it's so good, but
If you want to go to a happy place, go find the old Cherry 7 Up commercials with like synthwave in it from like 87. It's like Cheryl Pollock from she was in Pump Up the Volume and a couple other things, but she had the long red hair
oh, okay.
and Matt LeBlanc is in one of them, and they're in like black and white, except the little cherry on the 7 Up can. And I remember as a kid, like, oh my god, I just love these. And then during the pandemic, I got really into synthwave. I'm like, it's like a movie from the 80s that we never got.
Yeah.
It's an endless montage. And then I stumbled across the Cherry 7 Up commercials, which for the 2 years you could get that was my drink. Like, no, I'll have a Cherry 7 Up and some Cool Ranch Doritos, okay?
I love some cherry
Save my
7 Up.
lunch money, like screw your well-balanced food pyramid meal high school. I'm going to get Doritos and Cherry 7 Up. And I watched the commercial for Cherry 7 Up and I'm like, oh my god, it's all right here. It makes sense now. Literally, it's just a commercial.
Well,
My
and
entire
we had weird stuff when I was growing up because apparently I found this out later that North Dakota, we are notoriously cheap. And so in the 80s, a lot of like snack companies and drink companies, they would apparently test foods in North Dakota
Oh,
because if you could get cheap ass North Dakotans to buy it, you could get other people to buy
right.
it. So that was the thinking. And so there's all these like weird flavors of things and just different candies and stuff that I try to talk to people about and they never remember. Like the first time I ever had, do you know Zots, those little like
Hmm?
hard candies that have the
Yeah.
fizzy stuff?
Yeah.
The first time I ever had something labeled Zots, it was actually a foil package, like Big League Chew, and you opened it up, and it was just strings of the fizzy stuff. And
Oh.
that's what I thought Zots were for years. And then I started seeing the little hard candies and figured out that, oh, they had been around for a long time. And at some point, they tested just having the fizzy stuff, and it was there for like a month and then went away. And I have been trying to find somebody else who has ever seen that in my life for since then.
See, North Dakota is probably half the reason we have all these Mandela effects. It's not that it was a Mandela effect, it was just product testing, guys.
Yeah. An apple crush. I remember there was three different kinds of crush, and I can't remember the third one, but we had apple, which was disgusting, and then pineapple, which was delicious. And
Yeah,
then there was one that was maybe like blue raspberry,
okay.
and oh, it was so good.
Well, the apple thing makes sense though. Like, if you've ever had a slushy, you know how like the first step of slushy before you put the flavor in is like the colored part of it. It's like that tan.
Yeah.
Um, that's apple because apple as a flavoring basically is a vessel for everything else. So the apple crush was just them like, let's see how cheap we can get because they would have been using that apple flavoring as like step one for all other flavors. So,
So Gem is going in an interesting direction.
what's
Because
happening?
I don't have anything that's sort of like a Caucasian skin tone. So I was like, I'll
Well,
do that
that's
thing where I like outline, but
oh,
she's real tan. She's real tan.
it was the 80s. We still use baby oil for tanning oil.
Yep, she's got that George Hamilton look. She's
Yep.
doing the real tan.
Love at first bite and first melanoma.
Yeah.
And let's see. Gady's Toys. Manitoba is the one province we all forget exists.
Which
So,
is better than just like abject hatred, because that's usually what I encounter. It's usually people are like, ugh, Manitoba.
hello, Rowdy Riles. Welcome. I'm going to do the thing I do every time, Rowdy, because I loved it. Rowdy has an amazing Secret Wars video. Everyone needs to go watch it. It's an hour and a half. You will not regret it. She retells the story of 1984-ish Marvel's Secret War comic book with all of her Marvel Legend figures. You need to see
Ooh.
that in your life. It's the kind of content I wish I could make, and somebody else is doing it, so I don't have to. And that's 100% my YouTube philosophy. And hello, Ted Darkclaw of Hello Dope Toys. Thanks for popping in. Lovely to see you. They're doing a live stream later. You guys should go check it out. Also, I'll pop the link in a little bit. Some douchebag buyer ripped him off this week on eBay. Well, it sort of culminated this week on eBay. Ripped him off for a lot of money, and eBay was like, oh, well, can't help you. So go watch the video, help him out. Just like, comment on the video. Because YouTube has become notoriously bad for siding with sellers, even when they're obviously scamming. So
This is maybe a good time. We were going to talk
maybe,
about the
oh,
Palace
sorry.
of Gems, and I decided to cut this out of the video because it was a lot. But
Let's talk about my trauma and the real reason you're here, the beef. No, just kidding.
The beef. We're here to settle some beef.
It's an elaborate ruse to shame you. No, just kidding.
Speaking of like a dispute or whatever, because I watched that video about that thing and I was like, oh yeah,
that's right, because I
it's
did
wild.
share. Okay.
It's wild. And so when I bought the Palace of Gems, $1,800, like that. I haven't bought anything that was that expensive except my car. Like, so this was a big deal. I was like, I got a bonus at work. I was like, I'm gonna treat myself. I have wanted this forever. I am absolutely obsessed. And there's one in good condition. It was actually from like David Galoub's wife is on eBay, like selling all his old toys. And so it was in perfect condition, still in the box, all that kind of stuff. So but Marcy, his wife, dear sweet Marcy, not very good at the internet. She's not really sure how things work. She's not very good at it. So I bought this thing for $1,800. And then she immediately went on vacation, but didn't put like an out of office notification,
Oh my
didn't do
God.
anything. So I
Marcy.
sent the money. And then I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And I like sent a thing and I sent a message and then it took like a week and she's like, I'm on vacation. I'll be back on Tuesday and then I'll look at it or
Oh,
whatever.
Marcy,
So
Marcy.
just really short with me or whatever. And then she gets back and I don't hear anything. I wait like a week. And so then I'm like, okay, I guess I got to get to the post office. I haven't taken care of it. So she goes, and then eventually she just says it's sent, but she doesn't include any tracking and
Oh
doesn't
my
update any tracking
God.
on the listing. So I'm waiting and waiting and waiting. And what she did, I think, was print a label because I waited another like 2 weeks. I
Yeah.
sent her a message and she didn't reply, and I waited like a day. So I was getting close to the end of the window, I think, for when I could.
Yeah.
It was like you have to like do this thing. So I like went in and I said, "Hey, there's a problem." And then she goes and she gets this message and then she's mad and she's like, I told you it's sent and blah blah blah. And I said, well, do you have tracking? I kept asking, like, do you have tracking? Can you add tracking?
Yeah.
And she's like, it's shipped, and she didn't do anything. So I waited again like another week and it didn't, nothing went out or whatever. And so I'm waiting and waiting and nothing's happening. And so eventually then she was like, you need to remove this. You need to remove this from my account. And I said, well, I can't close the dispute because if I close it, I can't open it again. And I
Yep.
don't have my item. And so you
Right.
have my money and you have my item. So I can't close it. And so then we're waiting a little bit longer. And then I sent her another message. And then because it was a little while after, and then it was like, do you want to escalate this or whatever? And so I escalated and I was typing in and I was like, I still want this item. I still, as much as I'm hating this transaction, I
Right.
still want this item or whatever. And then like 2 minutes later, I got a message back and they're like, we thank you for, because I've been on eBay forever because a girl loves to
Yeah.
shop. And so they're like, we appreciate your like 24 years of loyalty, blah, blah, blah. We've issued a refund. And I was like, oh. And then the next day, the Palace of Gems
It
arrived.
arrives.
And I was like, oh God. And so then, of course, then Marcy got back to me because when
Then
she
she's
saw the
like,
money come out, she was
yeah.
like, what happened? And I was like, I didn't ask for this. I was like, if you look at the communication, I said I still wanted the item. I didn't want a refund. I was like, I just was trying to get them to like give you a kick in the pants.
Well, that means she wasn't replying to eBay though, because the only like if the seller actually engages, it takes a lot longer.
Yeah.
I know
So
because
it
I
was
went through
wild.
that.
Yeah, she wasn't until she got a notification that something was wrong. She was never replying to anything. And so then she had responded the one time where she's like, you have to take this off my account. And I was like, I can't. So then I
Until
had it,
you
and then
did.
we're trying to figure out how to get her money. But she was
Yeah.
so nasty in the initial messages that I was like, am I the villain of this piece? Am I about to keep
Right.
$1,800 and the Palace of Gems? But I was like, I cannot do that. I feel no matter how bad your customer service is, I was like, she doesn't
Yeah.
deserve to get screwed. But I called eBay. Like I called eBay. I had tried the chat and that didn't work. And so I called eBay and I'm on the phone with somebody. I was like, can you just run the charge again? And they're like, no, we can't. And I was like, so what do we do? And so it was such a mess,
Yeah.
and eventually I was able to send her a PayPal for it. So I did.
Oh,
She did
good.
get paid for the Palace of Gems.
Excellent.
There's no thievery, there's no villainy on my part, but I was
Well,
tempted for a hot second.
one, I was saying that situation would be a little bit closer to whatever happened to Baby Jane, where you're both kind of the villain. Because I will say, selling something for $1,800 and then going on vacation without any notification and not giving a tracking number, no,
Thank you.
no,
That's the
that's
thing is I was
shitty.
like, if she had just communicated with me, like, and she kept saying that she had the tracking, and I was like, well, you might have the tracking,
That
but
you
you have
didn't
never
give
added it
me. Yeah,
into, you didn't put it into the system, so I can't see the tracking.
$1,800 is a lot of money, and if Marcy takes it that blasé, then maybe Marcy didn't need $1,800 or the Palace of Gems, because I'm that friend.
Yeah, I was so tempted. I was so tempted,
I
but I was
think
like, I can't. I feel bad.
Yeah, that's and also like it would have been awkward if you would have made the video after that and then Marcy jumps in the comments and as a boomer it would have been in all caps.
Yeah.
Give me my money. It would have been like old person version of Better Off Dead with the paper boy.
Well, and once she figured out that she couldn't get eBay to reverse the charge, that I would have to send her the money personally, Her messages got much nicer. They got much
yeah,
nicer.
so Janessa can find me now. Oh, let me back up how I'm handling this.
Because her first message was like after she saw the money, she was like, "You are a criminal. Like you are stealing from me. You're a scammer. You can't get away with this." All like just ripping into me, and I was like, "Marcy," and I'm like trying to like gentle parent her into understanding. I was like, "If you look at our conversation, I asked you for the tracking multiple times." She's like, "I sent the tracking. I sent the tracking." She sent the tracking, an image of the receipt, to replied to something from eBay. Sent the tracking. She didn't send it to me. And so it was like, no. And then I was like, I'm willing to work on this with you, but you have to calm down. And if she had kept like spit and fire, I would have kept the money. But
Oh my
then
god.
she clearly called eBay and they told her what she needed to do. She needed to talk to me to work it out. So then
Yeah.
she was much calmer and I was like, okay, we can do this. But I was like, if you keep calling me a thief and a scammer, you may not get your money. Like
Yeah,
that's
girl.
I do have some limits.
No, nobody has to put up. See, now I feel so much better about so and now it's time for me to white woman center myself in the story. Um so the Palace of Gems is something I have also wanted since childhood, but was not willing to spend $1,800 when Marcy listed it. But it was on my watch list. And then one day I went in to look at my watch list with all of the items that I'm too cheap to spend that much money for, and it was gone. And I was like, ah. And then like a week later, I was doing my well, obviously it was way well. I mean, like you could have bought it a couple weeks before that, so the entire Mercy saga could play out. But
It was like 2 months before that because it took that long to work it all out.
I
But
don't go in and check the like the out of my price range because we were like I mentioned this offline to people, so I don't want Janessa to think I'm stupid and forgot I already said all of this. Um, but it was when we were closing on the house and like we had just gotten the first estimate from the movers, which you always know if they tell you 3,000, it's probably going to be 7,000 once they actually move your
yeah,
shit, and you have no choice but to pay them so you can get it off the truck. And actually, our movers did not do that. It ended up being at the end of the day once they did all the mileage cheaper. Everything ended up cheaper. We really lucked out. Knock on fake wood. Um, but anyway, I went in and it was gone. And I was like, oh my God, I'm heartbroken over this thing. I would never spend $1,800. I might now, now that we have a house. Once you don't pay rent every month, you're like, $1,800 is totally reasonable for a toy. But I was like, it was that fake heartbroken, like, oh my God, now it'll never happen. I'm going to find one at a yard sale. Anyway, then I was doing research and I popped in Golden Girl Palace of Gems and your video popped up. And I literally was like, that bitch has my toy. I literally had that moment, like, oh my God, she's got my thing. And then I was like, oh my, and then you told the story how you'd wanted it your whole life. I'm like, I can't be mad at her, and she's too fabulous anyway. This needs to be one of my friends. And then I started stalking your channel and leaving all those unhinged comments. So
I love it. Yeah,
yeah,
I am so surprised. I had always talked to people about Golden Girl and they acted like I was crazy, like nobody had ever heard of it or seen
right.
it. And then I found this little like Golden Girl community. There's a Facebook page, and so I
Yeah.
joined that. And when I put out the videos, I was really surprised by people being like, "Oh, I remember this toy line. I love this toy line. I can't believe other people remember this." All the
It's sort of the
janky.
same thing. The people who really, uh,
I did not. Well,
um,
I did, but not on camera. I realized that like I had put in an insert where I was like, "Oh, we figured out it's this other thing," but that still wasn't right.
yeah,
I think now I know how to put the jail doors on, but I I messed it up though.
that old plastic is like,
Oh,
that thing was not. I remember as a kid thinking, wow, that's really thin plastic for that Palace of Gems. I say
yeah,
that as
it's
somebody,
so
we had this,
wimpy.
my brother had the Sectar's Hive, and that was also made with really cheap, janky plastic that like cracked within the first year. That's made
Oh,
that one so expensive on the aftermarket. Finding one that didn't disintegrate 3 years later because they use substandard vac form plastic.
Yeah, it's so weird. I don't understand it because I feel like the quality on that line is so all over the place.
Yep.
Because the dolls, there's so much to the sculpt. Like the sculpts are so
Yep.
intricate. And so like She-Ra, I love She-Ra, but you can tell that there's like a base body. And then
Yep.
they just changed the bodice a little bit and the boot points are a little bit different, but it's the same body. And like
Yeah, they
those
use
Golden
this.
Girl bodies are all different.
They use
They're so
that.
good.
Well, their Wave One Pop has. They're all basically built on the same torso, and they're all the same head. Just different hair, different face paint.
Yeah.
And then there are the two arm types that they sculpted from. Then there's the Catcher, Spell, Double Trouble. Like there's the slightly bent arm to scratch, and then the gripping arm. And then all the other ladies have the sort of the more passive Tila arm, and then the hand that like the accessory
Yeah.
hand. It's funny because Adam from Battle Ram blog recently found a wax sculpture, the original Angela wax sculpture that they use, and the hands were completely different. The boots were
Oh,
different. There was way more sculpting, and then at some point Mattel was just like, "We got to get these out. Galoob is doing Golden Girl. We have to beat them to market."
yeah.
And so they went simplified it, but originally there was a lot more sculpting on those. So, but that's very
Yeah.
Mattel. I mean, like if they could cut a corner, they would. Still to this day, if Mattel can cut a corner, they will. I mean, there's a reason they make the money they make. I will say, I have Mint and Box Onyx. And when she's not displayed because again, this is temporary. But when I was going through the boxes to decide, like start organizing so I can unpack and display. In the 10 years that, and I had climate controlled storage that it was all living in. Her face paint has like done that weird melt thing that it does.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna have to, once I get everything displayed, I'm probably gonna buy a new Onyx and then just acetone her face and then repaint it so that I'll have a display Onyx instead of just the Mint and Box one. It's really, and some of the plastic on my very not mint and complete moth lady, her face has got starting to do that gummy plastic thing. So
Yeah.
I think Galoob
Yeah, there's definitely
also.
some degradation that happens with those.
I think Mattel. I mean, I think Galoob also rushed Golden Girl to market once they realized Princess of Power was happening.
And
Well, and
if
then
you look at the fashions, what I think is really interesting is that a lot of the photography on the packaging is the prototypes, and the
yeah,
prototypes are much more intricate and much better
yeah,
quality. So, like, they used a lot of that, like, the little disc chainmail. A
yeah,
lot of times I remember in the '80s, you would see, like, those earrings that were a little just like a little rectangle of little
yeah,
disc chainmail, and they would make it into an earring, and they would use that for accessories, and then they would just put down, like, a cup sequin and a bead and make, like, a line, and that was what they did instead of what was on the prototype. So the pictures versus what you got are quite a
yeah.
contrast.
Well, I remember as a kid, sort of, like, and this is also like, because there weren't fantastic fashions for She-Ra until late '86. Everyone's like, oh, Wave One Fantastic Fashions came out '85. It's like, nah, girl, that was the end of the line. Um, that I remember at the store looking at the Golden Girl fashions, and one, like, they look much cheaper in the actual thing than on the back of the cards, but also they were super bulky. Like they're not.
Yeah.
A lot of them leave a lot of the Golden Girls when you put them in the fashions, they look like Dorothy from Golden Girls because they're shapeless and like it's basically a caftan with a belt.
Well, and the Woodland Adventure ones, that's like lesbian camping gear. Like
Oh yeah,
that's
for sure.
it's just like suede ponchos and a
There's a
sensible coat.
yeah, there's a huge sapphic. Um, let's see. Cute cult. Allison, do you wish they would make new gold? Who do you wish? I vote for Boss Fight. I think Boss Fight, based on sort of the Red Sonja they just did, and some of the like the epic hacks that they do that's sort of medieval themed. I think those would be some really cool figures. So yeah, I could see boss fight. Fingers have been crossed, and of course, the further we get into 2025 without any announcement, the least likely. But I've been hoping Mattel would do a proper Origins Princess of Power line instead of like
Oh,
Masters of the Universe Origins with She-Ra in it. And as part of that, that they would give us some Golden Girl, because I can't imagine the licensing on it would be so expensive that Mattel couldn't afford it.
yeah.
I don't, and I think the real thing that's because everyone's like, well, Hasbro owns Galoob, but that doesn't necessarily mean they own Golden Girl.
I
It's going
would
to depend.
love a new version of Golden Girl.
And if they did, I would like them to keep the sort of the action doll of it, like give them like action figure bodies. But I think the rooted hair is just it has to happen. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I do love the Masters of the Universe Classics collection. I love that, but the chonky hair, it's just not the same.
it's funny because I quite enjoyed the Four Horsemen's sculpting work, but for whatever reason, a lot of their work, like I cannot even. I'm so glad that Double Trouble and Classics is called Double Mischief because that derpy face makes me so sad. Because Double Trouble
I
was like my favorite for like a summer.
So is there I've never been able to find a definitive answer on this because all I've ever found is like vague references to like copyright issues or trademark issues
Yeah,
for why that doll had to be called Double Mischief instead of Double Trouble.
yeah,
The only
and
thing I can figure is because she's the only one that doesn't appear in the cartoon. So the licensing might be different.
what it is, let me see. I'm gonna do something I rarely do, as my chat people will know. I'm going to reference Scott Nutlick, who is the former brand manager at the time of Classics. He did a video on her, which it's fine if you haven't seen it because he says females when he talks about women figures.
Oh,
Yeah, exactly.
on the
Anyhow,
dolls.
yeah, exactly. But what happened is there was another toy company that had Double Trouble registered as a trademark for action figures, so they had to do Double Mischief.
Gotcha.
That trademark was not renewed, so if Mattel were to do Double Trouble now, they could actually call her Double Trouble again.
Oh, nice.
Some of that got cleaned up, and they probably have the trademark for it again because I think they secured a lot of that during the DreamWorks She-Ra cartoon phase because they did have Double Trouble as a character and called her such. So, well,
Yeah.
called them such because I think Double Trouble in the new cartoon is
Is non-binary.
non-binary, which makes
Love
sense
it.
for the
Yes, I
character.
I have a whole video about the She-Ra cartoon, and
Yeah,
I think it is a masterclass in how to do sort of diversity and
yeah.
representation because it's not clunky. It just
Mm-mm.
exists. Like it just is in the world, and people
Yeah,
never have to like none of the characters are like, "Oh, what does that mean? What's your pronoun?" Like, it's
right.
just like fat
It
people
just
exist
is.
and people of different colors exist
Yeah,
and they just exist and they're there and nobody makes a big deal out of it. I
yeah.
love it.
And I think that's with Spinnerella and Natasa, who are obviously a couple, but they don't
Yes.
actually spell it out in a way where you have to, where it feels okay. Well, we're girlfriends, and then they like go through the lesson of teaching people like what that means,
Yeah.
and they just are.
They just are. It's never a lesson that somebody has to learn.
Yeah, I quite liked Double Trouble. And I mean, again, one of my favorite characters. I The Shira was really interesting for me because it was the first time I watched something that I really loved as a kid, and it was clearly intended for like the kids of today, right? But I didn't feel grumpy about it, and I didn't have the like. I enjoyed it. I watched it all. I've seen it like 3 times, but I didn't attach to it the way I did the original Shira stuff. And I had that moment where I'm like, this is what it should be. Like the kids have this thing that sort of draws from the thing I liked, but it's not for me. I can enjoy it, but like they really love it. Let them have it. Like
Yeah.
it in no way robs my, my preferred Shira or whatever. So it was really nice experience in growing up, especially because as somebody in the Star Wars fandom, um, there's not a lot of that. Like let the kids have their thing, and so it was really cool. Like I really, especially watching a lot of kids who really embrace those characters and the Catra and Shira, like Adora romance is hard for me because as somebody who has been in abusive relationships, I don't in general care for the enemies to lover trope because I
Yeah.
worry about how that, like how younger people might overlook abusive situations because they're like, oh, it's like enemies to lover, like in my favorite book or cartoon or whatever. But it wasn't because like Catra and Shira are girlfriends now. Like I could care less. Like kids loved it. It was I worry about that trope, and I feel like a lot of Catra's behavior was very abusive, obviously, because she's trying to destroy
Yeah.
everyone. Uh, that was my issue with it. That was it. I also don't like Kylo Ren and Rey as a couple for sort of the same reason, because he literally tries to kill her a couple times. Like, you know.
Yeah, I've never been super into Star Wars. I liked the new ones. I thought they were
Yeah,
fun. I thought they were interesting. I had liked that initially they were like, she's no one, like she's
yeah.
not important. Because I think there's something in a lot of these all different kinds. Oh, I think I cut in and out. I'm sorry if I keep
Oh
disappearing for a
no, that's
second, but
fine.
they're
No
doing
worries.
construction here in this building. So,
Oh, you're fine.
hello, Wesley.
Hello.
I liked it, and I liked that she was no one because I think there's always it's sort of like I've always liked X-Men, but I never cared for Wolverine.
You're
I
right.
was like, and Wolverine is like when I worked at Walden Books for 10 years, and that's kind of it was like late 90s, early 2000s.
Yeah,
And that's when I fell out of love with collecting new comic books because it was all of a sudden it was like, oh, I understand that when you've had something running for like 60 years, canon gets a little
yeah,
crazy. But I was like, oh, we just really don't care because at one time Wolverine was in space with the astonishing X-Men. He was on his own looking for his son in his own book. In the Avengers books, he was underground with the like, it was during the whole Civil War thing. So he was with the
yeah.
like renegade Avengers. And then with the X-Men, the other X-Men books, he was doing something else. And I was like, oh, so we just don't care. We're just going to put
Right.
Wolverine in a book because chinbeards in Iowa in their basement will like buy anything that's got Wolverine on the
Yeah.
cover. Got it. We don't care about story. Let's just put Wolverine on a book. So I
Wolverine
had
was yeah,
to drop out. And I just hate it. And I hate that there's always that idea of like, she's got to be tied to, she's
yeah,
Luke's secret daughter, or she's this, and I'm like, no, she's just no one. Like, the Force is everyone's. And I like that. And then they, of course, really poorly whip back on that.
yeah. I prefer her as nobody than her being a Palpatine. Um,
Yeah.
Mainly because there was that whole meme of who fucked Palpatine, and that's not something any of us need to think about. I'm just saying. I
Yeah.
do not need to. And somebody was like, "He was a clone. They just took his cells," and I'm like, "That's still too close to sex."
Still
Like,
weird.
no.
Still weird.
My original theory, based on how Han and Leia were reacting to her, was that they had sent her, and she was like Kylo Ren's sister that they had sent into hiding, and he didn't know. And then whenever the weird sexual tension happened, I'm like, I'm okay with that not being the thing. We already have the Luke and Leia thing that happened.
Yeah.
Um, I did prefer her as a nobody. When the alternative was Palpatine's love child, well, love granddaughter, if you will.
Yeah.
But I for me, Star Wars, I prefer, and this is where my Star Wars OCD comes in because I've sort of the research I've done. George Lucas originally called it the Journal of the Wills, and then when he spent it off into like the Skywalker story, he changed it to the Star Wars.
Mm.
So the Star Wars originally it was the Journal of the Wills, and then Star Wars from the Adventure of Luke Skywalker. So for me, if it's called Star Wars, it should have a Skywalker. When it's not Skywalker centric, it should be called Journal of the Wills. But that's just my nerd brain. Um, I'm also not going to start a 17 video series on how everybody who thinks differently than me is wrong and they should go away. So, because life is too short for that.
I'm thinking
Also,
about doing a video where it's I want to do, and the title that I'm working with is "Why Do We Hate the Things We Love?" Because
right?
there's something about fandom now where people who love a thing, first of all, I don't know what that impulse is to want to have everything spoiled. So it's like we want to get every set photo and every character and every plot point, and we want to leak the script and all that kind. And it's like, can't you just wait for it to come out? And then they just start ripping everything apart. And it's like, oh, this is terrible. And like, I remember when the X-Men Age of Apocalypse, I know people are divided on that, but set photos of the guy in the Apocalypse look
Hmm.
came out and they were like, this is so cheesy and this is so awful. And it's like, if you don't think that that's not going to be CGI'd to absolute,
Right.
like in something that is not real. What you're seeing is not what you're going to see on the screen. So maybe just calm down a bit. Like, why
Right.
do
Calm
we
your tits, Helen.
hate everything?
Well, it's interesting because I've seen sort of the shift in it, and it's frankly, in my humble opinion, it's because we're online and it's all filtered through the internet now.
Yeah,
Because, like when the prequels were coming, George Lucas had Star Wars Insider, and they were every month, like once the prequels were like a thing in filming, they would release set photos, and it was like this big deal. Like, oh my gosh, look at this. Um, this is so cool. Um, and it was cool. Like, and the novelization for episode one came out like a month before the movie did, and I had read it, so I knew everything that was going to happen when I went to the movie. But it also and this is Star Wars specific for me. Everyone's going to be different, but for me, Star Wars isn't necessarily the story. Being like the experience of sitting in a theater and watching a Star Wars is the thing. So when the special editions came out and everyone was like, Greedo shot first, it looks stupid. It looked stupid, don't get me wrong, but I got to see a Star Wars on a movie screen. Like, I was happy. So for me, like the story of, I know it sounds weird to say, the story of it is secondary. It's Star Wars. It's that experience. So
yeah.
spoiler culture in general, kind of like when somebody, like I was on a stream and we were talking about this old show, and I mentioned another old show, and they're like, "Oh, don't forget your spoiler alert." I'm like, "This show is 30 years old. If people haven't watched it yet, fuck them." Uh,
Oh,
you
spoiler
know,
alerts. People who want to demand spoiler alerts on things. I talk about horror movies from the 80s,
yeah,
and I'm like, oh, you've just been busy for the last 35 years?
right,
Like, what
exactly.
is your problem?
If Friday the 13th is ruined for you because we just told you Mrs. Voorhees is the killer in the original movie and not Jason, then I'm sorry, you suck.
Yeah.
Um, well, I was listening to and this for me, spoiler culture has been a thing this last week or two. I was listening to a podcast, and I died a little that I had to hear this, so you're gonna have to hear it, and everyone watching it is gonna have to hear it. This is so bad. I posted a real post on Facebook that wasn't a cross post from a different platform to vent. Girl in the podcast literally said, and the book didn't even, it told me everything that's going to happen in the movie and didn't even tell me that there were spoilers in the book. The movie is an adaptation of the book. They made the movie because of the book existing, and she was mad that the book didn't give her spoiler alerts for the movie.
Oh, you can't fix stupid.
It made me so violently angry that I was just so mad. I
Yeah.
couldn't believe that I had to one hear that and two that somebody actually said that. Unironically.
Yeah. To me, for spoilers, if it's a movie, because if you don't get to see it in the theater, I understand that movies are
Yeah.
expensive and there's all that kind of stuff. I give it like a year because within a
Yeah.
year, it's gone to some streaming platform. It'll be available on physical media. So I try to, if I'm doing something that's really, really new, I do try to say, hey, we're going to talk about everything.
Yeah, if
We're
it's
going to do
new,
it. So if you don't
that's
want to know,
yeah, no.
come through. But anything older than that, you came to my video saying I was going to talk about this,
Yeah.
so we're going to talk about it. So be ready.
Yeah, I think a year is a good but again, if it's a video specifically about that thing, you should always um expect it's going to get spoiled when somebody's
I think,
talking
yeah, I
about
think you
it.
should assume spoilers when somebody's doing a commentary, a review. They're going to spoil something, even if they
They're
don't
gonna,
give you
because you
every
have to
detail.
talk.
They're going to
Yeah,
spoil something.
yeah. No, it made me. I wanted to like find her parents and beat them down for raising that. Like, that's a fail on the parental side of things. Um, yeah, I don't know. I was on a, like, because I do like people ask me to be on stuff and I go on stuff because I'm lone. No, just kidding. I'm lonely. I'll do anything. I'm like Pia Zadora. I'll show up to the opening of a Dachshund factory and Van Nuys. No kidding. Well, not about Pia Zadora. She's desperate. But they were like, it's like in The Wire, and then they stopped and like, you've seen The Wire, right? And I'm like, no. And they're like, I won't say it because I don't want to spoil it for you. I'm like, I know you can talk about it. I'm never gonna watch The Wire. And they're like, but it's so good. It's the best TV show ever. I'm like, and that's why, because everyone has been telling me for like a decade and a half it's the best show ever. It's not gonna be that good for me.
Yeah.
It's like when people tricked me into going to see Forrest Gump because it was the best movie ever. No, no. I was so angry through that entire movie. It's like people are like, what do you mean you haven't seen Top Gun? I'm like, I can't watch Top Gun now because it will not be good because you've all built it up for the last 40 years.
Yeah.
That ship sailed in 1988.
Yeah. I don't mind spoilers because half the time, once I'm watching something and I'm in it, I
Yeah,
forget everything that I knew about it before for the most part. And I'm still surprised, but even like
yeah,
seeing how they do it is the surprise. So even if I know that a certain character is going to die or there's
right.
something, like seeing how they created it visually is still a surprise for me. So it's very rarely that I care about spoilers. If I do, I will let somebody know in advance. I'll be like, don't tell me what this is because I want to find out on my own.
I've gotten to the point with like, this is mainly for Scream movies. But I now spoil, like, for the first four Screams, I just went. Like, and I went opening day. Well, technically, we didn't know opening day of Scream 1996 that it was going to be Scream. I was just like, Drew Barrymore is really cool, and she's in this movie. I'm going to love it.
Ah,
Even though this boring Party of Five lady is in it, too, like, that I think is boring. This is going to be a great movie. And I'm sitting there with I took my brother and his friends, and then like, who was the killer in Friday the 13th? And she's like, Jason, I'm like, bitch is wrong.
yeah,
And everyone in the audience was like, shh. I'm like, she's wrong. She's just wrong. And then he was like, wrong. And I'm like, I told you. I'm the
I
only one
told
in the
you.
theater who would have survived Scream. Um, but anyhow, the first four, I didn't want to know anything, but now that they're all old and they're killing off the original survivors, I'm like, I need to know because I need to be prepared if any of these characters are gonna die.
Yeah,
Like, I can't. I'm not gonna say who it was because like, I know they've been out a while, but I know they also started hitting during the pandemic, so not everyone's been able to get to Scream. But there was a death in the first of the new Screams that really was hard, and I'm really glad it was spoiled for me because if I had just gone in and that had happened, I would have died with that character. Would have been like,
yeah.
oh my god, how could you?
I
So,
did a video about Scream 6, and after I watched it, I was so mad because I was like, did anybody even die in this movie? Because
was that
there were so many fake outs where they like show people dying, getting like attacked, and
the
then
New
at
York
the end you
one?
find out they're alive.
That was the one in New York, right?
Yep.
Yeah, I don't know if anyone died either. Like, I watched that one and
Nameless
I'm still
characters.
not
There were a
sure.
couple like nameless, like the shrink that we saw in one scene died, and the like guy who worked at the bodega on the corner died,
Right.
and
Poor Bodega Bo. I don't know what his name
yeah,
is, but yeah. Yeah, it did feel like too many people survived. And at least one of them was not somebody I felt like should have survived.
yeah.
But anyway. Um,
So I have moved on to Miss Pac-Man.
ooh, that's a good one.
We're doing
Andrew,
some.
there's your Miss Pac-Man in the feather boa.
Yeah,
That's
I thought that was fun. This is
iconic.
kind of a little preview to something that's coming to my website later this year. So
Scream 2, interesting. I figured out the Debbie Salt thing. I was like, why else would you have Laurie Metcalf here chewing scenery in Lost? I didn't figure out who she was. But again, lovely Mrs. Voorhees twist there. And I like that they even kind of paid homage in the movie to that with her during the big showdown with Nev Campbell. I didn't predict that part of it, but I figured out the only one didn't figure out was Scream 3, and that was because by the time that one just kind of bored me, and I realized I didn't care because it had gotten so it was not that's my least favorite Scream. I was
Yeah,
surprised in
same.
Scream 4 by the second, like sort of the oh, I don't even know why I'm pretending like after the big conversation of spoilers, whenever they revealed Emma Roberts, like Jill was the other killer, it surprised me in a good way. I was like, oh, this is cool. And I loved her motive. I don't need friends, I need fans. And I'm like, this is the first
Yeah.
believable Scream killer that we've had. It was pretty, I like how unhinged they let her get too. Like she went full camp. Like I've not
Yeah.
seen it was like Betsy Palmer chewing scenery and inhaling it through her nose. Like it
I
was
was so
magnificent.
excited. One of my newest horror collectible acquisitions is NECA just did a new Mrs. Voorhees.
I saw
Um,
that.
oh, it's so
It
good because
looks
I have
yummy.
the like rotted one from Scream 3 or from
Yeah.
Scream 3 from
Friday the
Friday the
13th
13th
part.
3. But I wanted one with her like real face,
Mm,
and the one that they did where it's her and like little young kid Jason.
yeah.
I never got that when it was available, and then like on the secondary market, it is always stupid expensive,
Yeah.
and so I was so excited when I saw that I snapped it up.
That figure, yeah, it's on my list of things to pick up because it looks really. It's the Mrs. Voorhees figure we needed.
Yeah.
Now I just need an Adrian King as Alice figure, and I will be happy.
Yes.
She lives now that I live in South Oregon these days. She lives not far from us. Like every so often, like there's a winery that she has her wine label through that she'll do like screenings and signings.
Yeah.
Before it was always like 5 to 6 hours away. Now it's only 2.5 hours away. So I'm gonna next time she does one of those, I'm gonna go and finally get to meet her in person.
She is
Um,
lovely. I've met her at a couple horror conventions, and she is just absolutely lovely.
she is, yeah, like excuse me. Put a little too much Irish in that coffee. Um, yeah, no, she stopped acting. I think most people know now that she stopped acting because she had a stalker. And I had a stalking situation, and I was still sort of dealing with it when she came out about it. And I just sent her a really lovely email, and to say that she was the most beautiful human being in the situation. And now I look back, I'm like, that's kind of rude to somebody who had very famously had stalk the things you do in your late 20s, early 30s. Um, to email this person you don't know that you have only idolized because she was the survivor in your favorite scary movie when you were a kid, and trauma dump on them, and for her to be so kind and generous and sweet, just really sweet, and like and she would sign off every time I over trauma dumped on this poor woman. She's like, and this is why we're true survivors. So cannot say enough nice things about her.
Yeah, she is lovely. And we just lost Lar Park
I
Lincoln.
saw
Rest in
that and
peace.
I'm like, it felt surreal, like because she's only 63. That's really young.
Yeah, she's not that old.
And like Tina. Well, I think I don't know if it came out yet, but I know she had been working on a fan film sequel to her movie.
Oh yeah.
And I've seen previews, but I don't know if it's actually out yet. So makes it extra sad because I think it's from the original script she had written, or
Oh.
parts of it are back when before they went to New York.
Ugh.
Ugh. let's not talk about Jason Takes Manhattan. At least it's not as bad as Jason Goes to Hell.
Yeah, that one was pretty terrible as well.
Yeah, like it was bad.
I
But
at least appreciated that they were trying to like they had realized it had sequeled into Oblivion, and
yeah,
they were trying to give it some sort of proper send off, but
yeah, they were
yeah, it
trying,
was not successful.
but it just it was a lot of what in the but yeah, but she had wrote a sequel which was like where she thought the story should go next. And
Oh,
but of course, you know, she wanted money for it and Paramount was not going to pay her anything more than scale, so it did not happen. Paramount was so cheap about those movies, and considering what they made back on them, like they would spend less than, you know, like in 80s money, 2-3 million, make 15 to 20 million on it.
yeah.
And it's like that's a lot of money, especially because they were for a while they're coming out every year. Like there's built-in marketing there. You're not having to do a full ad campaign when you're that closely releasing movies. Couple commercials, some posters, throw a couple like half a mil, like a week or two before opening, and there you are. Those in Elm Street though. Those were great. You know, back when your parents could just drop you off at the theater for an R-rated
Yeah.
movie, buy your tickets, send you in, or even one of the theaters by us. My mom would drop us right in front of the steps, and we go up to buy it. And I'm like, my mom's in the car, and my mom would just wave and say, "Give them what they want," and then she would go and go to the mall and shop for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. Yeah, it was fun when I was finally started getting to go see Friday the 13th. My first one at the theater was part 5 with fake Jason.
Oh yeah. I
Where
liked
you,
that one. I know that it's divisive.
it's
I thought it was
it's
interesting. I thought it was fun.
it's acquired, I think. I mean, I have the fondness because that was my first in theater Friday the 13th. I don't think it's as bad as people think it is. I think it caps off the original like 4 movies pretty well before it turned into complete supernatural.
Yeah.
Everyone's always coming back. All
And I
right.
think it's divisive because people have a hard time when it's not a female, like, final girl character,
Yeah.
and because it does something to them, and it does something to their expectations, and number 5 especially, the final girl, I mean, Pam is there, but Pam, she just runs around and screams in the rain, like, that's
With
Tommy
with
Jarvis's movie,
that
like, that's
see-through
his movie.
blouse. Yeah, like your final. Well, you've got a final boy who is Tommy again. You've got Pam, who is portrayed as like a grown woman with a career. So it's more like a final woman.
Yeah.
Then you've got Reggie from Different Strokes. So you've got a final kid. Um, yeah, I think it broke. And then it's fake Jason, and there's a very Scooby Doo reveal of the character at the end. I think they really tried to give it a new beginning, but I think they tried a little too hard.
Yeah.
And I think some of that too is that Corey Feldman wasn't available because he was filming The Goonies. How dare you, Corey? How dare you? Because the original script, it was Corey Feldman still, and it was still younger.
Yeah.
So some of the stuff that kind of comes across as campy would have been, I think, less campy if they had actually had Corey Feldman back in the role. Makes a lot more sense for sort of a traumatized 13-year-old doing all those things than it does somebody who's been in the system a little bit longer. But who knows?
Yeah, if you're gonna keep it the same characters, because that was one of the things that I thought was great about for the first 3 is, and part of it is because, they did have Alice come back at the very beginning and then she
Yeah,
got killed off, but that it was always different characters. And so then
yeah,
like part 3 is all different characters and part 4 is all different characters. And so I think that having it not have to have this continuation of the final girl or of the characters who are left over, I think really kind of gave it something different that Nightmare on Elm Street didn't have because they were always trying to have that thread from the previous movies.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street. Like I just got to see all of those in a theater. Very fortunate. My mom actually took me to see the first one. She's like, "We have to see this. It's your dad's too scared to watch it." So she got me out of school. We went and saw Nightmare on Elm Street. Thanks, Mom. Um, but I think, and this is, I like the first two a lot. I loved Dream Warriors when I was a kid because it's like everyone can fight Freddy.
Yeah.
Rewatching them though, I think after part three where it went the superpower route, for like, and then you have Alice as like the Dream Master or whatever she was supposed to be, and then there's a baby who has dream powers. I think they tried to reverse Friday the 13th thing where it's like there really isn't continuity, and like the
Yeah.
continuity, I think continuity and this need to like make it more of a popcorn film than a horror film kind of hurt Elm Street in the later, because the first two to me, Freddy is pretty scary.
Yeah.
And I think, like for part two, it was, as a kid, I was like, where's Nancy? This is disappointing. But at the same time, rewatching them a little bit older, I appreciate that she's just sort of the urban legend that used to live in the house. And Elm Street 2 is fun too. I know some people don't enjoy it, but there's nothing quite like a leather daddy PE teacher
Oh my God.
buying it in a locker room.
I saw all of these later. I saw them all on VHS because I was like, especially the early ones. I saw some of
Yeah.
the sequels in the theater, but because I'm a little bit younger, because I was born in '78, so a lot of the
Okay.
original
A little
ones,
bit, yeah.
I was little when they came out. But going back to them, and I hadn't seen Nightmare on Elm Street 2 until I was an adult,
Okay.
and I was like, "This is the gayest thing I have ever
Oh
seen.
yeah,
This
totally.
is so gay."
My gay uncle from New York had flown down, and we went and saw Elm Street 2 while he had just left one job attending bar at Fire Island, and his sublet hadn't opened up yet. So that people who owned it spent most of the year in the Hamptons, but there were 4 months every year where they had to be in Manhattan. He had a nice sublet, like he was living in Manhattan in a sublet. Not, this isn't the Village. We're not in the Bronx. We're in Manhattan. Um, but yeah, he came down and we went and saw Nightmare on Elm Street 2, which was the perfect one to watch with your fabulous uncle. And he
Yes.
just did the whole thing like, oh, okay, I see. I remember at one point he was like, girl, get out of the showers. And I didn't quite get it because I was like 11. I knew something, you can tell something was happening, but he loved, that was his favorite one for obvious reasons. But yeah, girl, get
Yeah, it
out of
was
the
wild.
shower. Yeah, meant
I
with
love
fire.
that one.
Exactly. Agreed.
We did a late night movie night. I every once in a while I host horror movies at our local community theater as a
Yeah,
fundraiser, and um, we did a double feature of Mark Patton's documentary "Scream Queen: My
that
Nightmare on
was
Elm
really
Street,"
good.
and then played Nightmare on Elm Street 2. It was a
Yeah,
lot of fun. We did that for Pride, I think.
that's awesome. Poor Mark. Like, he did not. I met him at a convention, and he is just the nicest, sweetest. But a lot of these horror actors who sort of didn't blow up afterwards in other media. Yeah, well, like Laura Park Lincoln, like she went on to do Knots Landing, so she had some Knots Landing money for most of her life. Um, but a lot of them are just the most humble and like
Yeah,
coolest with having sort of, not all of horror fans are. Some of us are a little odd in ways that more than trauma dumping on Adrian King, uh, you know, but very great, just very gracious, very appreciative that people still give us shit. The
yeah.
Paul Kelmer from Nightmare on Elm Street, TJ, yeah, TJ. He's like, no, Axel was the pretty blonde killer guy. He was on Twitter, and he was one of my first crushes as a child. And for a while there, my friends and I, we would do Teleparty, and we would watch My Bloody Valentine for Valentine's Day. And I just found him on Twitter and did the thing that we all do too often back on old Twitter when it was fun, where I tagged him like, me and my friends watching it, first crush. And he replied like, oh my God, thanks for your fandom. Enjoy. Be my bloody Valentine. I died in the best way. I'm like, oh my God, TJ asked me to be his bloody Valentine. So
I love that. I had something like that with when I was trying to set up the first movie night that I tried to set up. I was like, for 420, we're gonna do Reefer Madness, and I wanted to
oh
do the old Reefer Madness, and I wanted to do the musical. And I was trying to find information about how to license the musical.
yeah.
And I was running into so many roadblocks and I could not find it. Nobody had it. I reached out to Swank. I reached out to all these different companies. So finally I just was like, I'm on Twitter. Christian
Mhm.
Campbell's on Twitter. And so I just messaged him and I was like, look, I am trying to show your movie and I cannot find anybody who has the rights. Like, how do I get the rights to this? And he was like, well, there's this whole thing and it's this company in Germany, but they're not really pushing it and they don't really seem to care. He's like, I would just show it. What are they
Yeah.
going to do? And I was like, are you going to post my bail money when they come get me? And he's like, you know it. And I was like, all right, cool. So we kind of had a little chat about it. And we showed the movie and everything was fine. I didn't go to prison. And yeah.
I used to work for a nonprofit and we would do movie nights, and there's always the person on your board of directors who's like, you need to get licenses through that. And I just always ignored them because we weren't selling tickets to see a movie. We were selling tickets for people to come hang out, and their ticket, like popcorn and a beverage. So
Yeah.
they weren't paying for the movie. We were showing these movies while they were there. So it does straddle a line, but like unless you're the Met, they don't care.
Yeah.
Like it's not worth their time, energy, or effort, and they're going to look like complete assholes if it's a charity or a community situation where it's like 17 people came and bought some popcorn and drinks in this community center, or tiny little nonprofit that
Yeah.
isn't even making money, you know gave you
Yeah. I
free
mean, we were getting
publicity.
like 30 to 50 at most. And these companies, for like a 40-year-old
Yeah,
slasher film, they want like $300. And I'm like, get right out of
yeah,
here.
yeah. Yeah, that's how you get around it though. You don't charge them for the movie. The movie just happens to be playing, you're good. Again, as long as you're not, like if you're a movie theater, that's different. Like you can't
Yeah.
come watch this thing and you're buying tickets for this thing. No, you come and enjoy a movie night and pay $10 to get in for popcorn, and then we're gonna watch a bunch of movies. And here's what we're watching. Oh yeah, I
There we
fought
go.
with
The
him all
little
the
Ms.
time.
Pac-Man.
Oh my goodness, you're tearing through them. Like
These
10
markers are
seconds.
super fast.
That is the thing about markers. It's just I'm not good at markers now. I know people are
I'm
like,
not
why don't you
either, but
use
it works.
markers? It's like I suck. I suck. I don't know how to blend with markers. Let's
I have
see.
to pick,
Oh,
so I should pick another one.
see, this is why I never get to my extra ones, but this is why I always print a few extras just in case. So you did Miss Pac-Man and you did Gem.
Oh, I should do Jade. I had said that I was going to do Jade, but
Yeah,
then I
you've
got
got a Jade.
distracted by Miss Pac-Man.
Well, she is fabulous. I spent way too many days at the arcade as a child.
I loved Miss Pac-Man, and I was obsessed with that 6-character, the big double cabinet X-Men game,
Yeah,
because my favorite X-Men were Storm and Dazzler, and they were the two female characters that
yeah.
were featured on that game. But Dazzler was like way up in the corner, and so it was impossible to play. But Storm was right in the middle, and
Did
I
she
loved
have her for that game? Did she have her disco outfit, or was it the blue jumpsuit with the
No, it
star?
was the blue jumpsuit. It was basically, it came out after they did. I don't know if you ever saw that. I think it was a pilot, or they turned it into an episode of like a recurring show, Pride of the X-Men.
Yeah,
And
I've
so it was
seen
all the
that.
designs from that. So it was like her
Got
blue
it.
jumpsuit with the bomber jacket, and
My uncle bought me the Dazzler comics because he was way into disco. He
I
was like, "You
love
must read
Dazzler.
Dazzler. She's fabulous." She was. She was so fabulous. I love Jazz. I like that costume though. One of my old housemates worked at Things from Another World, and they did a signing with Terry and Rachel Dodson. And they did, while they were sitting there between other commissions they were doing and signing stuff, they drew because like he facilitated the whole day. He made sure they had beverages and food for like the 8 hours they sat there. And they, between all of that, did Disco Dazzler, like not just a head, but like the full body. It was amazing. It was really hard to not steal that whenever I moved out. Just like, you don't really need this.
So I apologize to the audience for what you're about to see, but
Oh no.
we're about to switch ways.
Dun, dun, dun. Oh my goodness. That's punk rock under there.
I know, I've got a little Annie Lennox
That's
situation happening.
Yeah. Well, it makes me glad that I picked the Little Bird song by Annie Lennox for the music on the tile advertising. Dun, dun, dun. This is the magic behind the scenes, folks.
Yep.
This is what they don't want you to see. This is what big drag is keeping from you.
That's right. There we go.
Big
I
drag
was
is
going to start with this one because I do love it, but I was like, it's Farrah. It's kind of 70s, so I was like, we'll save that because we're going very 80s neon.
Oh my God, you just like that. It just quick change. That was impressive.
I'm a master of the quick
This
change.
is the magic, people. I should have made you full screen for that. I'm sorry, guys. My showmanship for this is not on top of it. That was amazing how quick that happened. Like,
yeah,
this is why Janessa Jaye is a professional, you guys. The rest of us
that's
are
right.
just.
See, I can't style hair, so I have to buy hair that's pre-styled, and then I just like spray it into submission. So that I can just like throw one on, and then I can just kind of fluff it a little bit, and it's good to go.
Yeah, that looks really good. All right, guys. I think I'm just gonna shave my head and start doing wigs. I'll get good at it eventually if I have no hair and have to. No, I wish I had found that box of silly wigs I had. I also have one that's green, and I bought it literally because it's like Marmista seashell green from Princess of Vintage Pop. I did try to do like frosted pink eyeshadow, frosted pink lipstick, and a lot of no, it was not a look. It did not work. It looked like Katy Perry. Yeah, but not like Katy Perry when she doesn't have lighting.
Yeah, she girl bossed too close to the sun.
She girl bossed too close to the sun. It's funny. Somebody was like, "Oh my God, you guys are trying to take this away from her." Like, you guys are trying to cancel her. And it's like, we have not bought music from Katy Perry for 10 years.
Yeah.
She's been canceled, guys. Like, whatever. Like, it's just funny because she doesn't realize she's over.
Yeah. She's
now turned into that desperate ex who won't go. She's like Stacy from Wayne's World. Look at me. I'm going to the skies, you guys. I'm in space. I'm so cool. Stacy, psycho hose beast.
Yeah, I haven't paid attention to her because her music just hasn't been very good. And then she put out that like awful fake girl power anthem, and she worked with Dr. Luke. And I am Team Kesha all day long.
Oh,
so I
was
am
like,
as well. Oh, I wasn't going to get this anyway, but now I'm extra not going to get it.
Oh, no, it's fine. Yeah, no, exactly. Like, Team Kesha. The party don't start till I walk in, and we all cancel Dr. Luke.
Exactly. Yeah, Kesha is probably my like signature. At some point has their like signature diva that they go back to. Mine is absolutely Kesha. I do Kesha all the time.
Oh, do you ever live stream these? Because I'm gonna have to come to one of the Dakotas finally after a lifetime of like I'll never go to a Dakota to see that because I do Kesha karaoke, and what I learned early
Oh,
on is if there's nobody in the karaoke room, the second TikTok comes on, like every drunk girl within a 50-mile radius is suddenly at the karaoke bar and like this is my jam. Like you can summon like 7 different bridal showers just by Kesha.
I love it. I don't
And
do it's not my go-to at karaoke, but I do Your Love Is My Drug every once in a
that's a
while.
good one. Yep,
That's I like it. Do you want to have a slumber party in my basement? I love it. It's
that's
so
a good one.
crazy. I love
Wait.
her.
I like your beard.
I like your beard.
Yeah, I was dating a guy at the time who had a beard, and it's not something I normally go. Even though Matt has a beard, huh, weird. Anyway, but at the time, it was my first bearded dating person, and I was like, I like your beard. So
I love
yeah,
it.
and yeah, Kesha is iconic. I I really find it horrific that she was victimized both by Luke and by the legal system in that situation.
Yeah.
When there was literally proof. Like it wasn't even a situation where it was like he said, she said. She literally had proof that he did all that. He had like admitted to it.
Yeah.
And then like they held her hostage for all those years and yeah. Anyway, when I start the Kesha channel, you're like just my co-host every episode.
Oh my God, I would love that.
Kesha Love.
I
Okay.
love Kesha. I'm so obsessed.
Did you have you've do you do TikTok at all?
Yes, actually, after this is done, I have to film TikToks because I'm really
Oh,
sketchy about updating.
I say
Um,
that and I
so
follow you
keep
on
on
there
top of
and
it.
yeah, interacting with anyway, sorry. It's the Irish in my coffee.
And I thought
Um,
about, I was really thinking about walking away because there was that whole political theater of the band
yeah,
that never was. And I was just like, I don't know. And then lately, I just haven't felt as inspired because of the world being on fire. So, like,
yeah,
recording fun little like TikToks of doing a little dance and lip syncing has felt kind of weird. But I was like, yeah, I think I still want to do it.
let's see. What do you think of my drag name? Intravenous.
I do like that. That is,
That one's
I
good.
love a punny drag name. I know that some
Yeah,
people don't. There's different kinds of drags in different little
yeah,
communities. And you get the very pageanty, very 80s dynasty
yeah.
names like Alexis, Vanessa, Richmond, Carrington the Third, and shit like that. And I love a punny drag name.
My uncle's the few times he did drag, he was Andromeda Rivera. But we're super white. Well, technically, my grandfather grew up on a reservation, but my grandmother's white genes dominated, as it does. Um, that's a parable. But he was Andromeda Rivera, but he was not. It was not his art form. It was best my uncle stuck to go-go dancing in those lame gold shorts and the boots.
I had a
That
couple of
was his
ill-fated drag names before I settled on Janessa, and one of them was Andromeda Collins. I was
interesting.
gonna be so Andromeda because I was like, okay, I like Greek mythology, and I thought
Yeah,
Andromeda was a princess. She was supposed to be a great beauty,
and then she was in the
clearly.
stars.
And then I thought it's always good to name yourself after booze, and so I thought like a vodka Collins, and I love Dark Shadows,
Yeah.
and that was centered
Oh
on
my.
the Collins family. So like
Yeah.
that was really good.
You could be Victor. My name is Victoria Winters.
Yep.
Oh, I love the pre-Barnabas episodes the best, where it's just all melodrama and black and white. Like I saw a shadow cross across the governess area. Yeah.
Yeah, it was all it's so funny watching that because I started at the beginning and it really was just a soap opera with all of the
Yeah.
like soap opera
With like
plots
some.
and
Yep.
all of that, but in a creepy house and everything was spooky and big shadows and
Yeah.
then they brought in a vampire.
after the Phoenix storyline, which is equally unhinged, because we never know if
Yep.
she is the Phoenix or she's just a psycho host beast. But that was what started sort of they're like, hey, wait, people are actually watching this when it gets really unhinged? Okay.
Yeah, and they did the first time they did the Ghost of Josette, then it had a little
Yeah,
bump in ratings, and they did the Phoenix storyline,
yeah,
and then they're like, let's just go off the rails and do Barnabas.
yeah. I need to go back and finish, but I got to the Frankenstein story,
Oh yeah.
and that's about where I tapped out because I was moving. It's been 10 years, but I was moving, and it's really hard, like you have to do those back to back because it's so repetitive. But I found for myself, if I took more than like a week off, I'm like, didn't I watch this episode? Because half of the soap operas back then were regurgitation because if you missed an episode, you missed it. There was no
You
video.
missed
There
it.
was
Yeah, because there was no VCRs or
no
anything. So
rerun,
they
no
had to repeat
nothing.
things over and over.
Yeah. So like that's why it could take a week for somebody to get across the drawing room
Yeah.
to answer the phone. The phone is ringing. I wonder who it could be. Well, it could be Daniel because remember last week when there was the whole situation and the phone is ringing. And then the next day it's like, it's Daniel, the situation. Remember, I just mentioned it, the whole thing that happened. And then by the end of the week, I'm going to, Daniel, it's you. Remember that thing? That was like the week of a soap opera back in the day.
Yeah.
So I think that's why it was easier for them to learn the lines back then because if you learned your lines like twice a week, you were set for a month.
And it's so funny to watch them when they forget, and you can see them just the terror on their face.
Because
They're like,
there were no edit. There was no refilming unless something went or really well, even Dark Shadows. There was an episode I was watching where like the boom mic like
oh yeah, there
fell
were several where
and they
the
just
boom would
kept
end up
going.
in
Like they kept
shots, and
filming, they kept acting, like they did not stop. Like I think that's why they got so many theater actors back in the day because they could keep up with not only the pace but just the keep going of it all.
yeah.
Oh, Sleeping Golden Girl. Dreaming of Solaria. This is what's weird to me about Golden Girl is we did not really get the origin until the coloring books in 1987.
Yeah.
And there was the storybook. It's over there. I'm not gonna go get it, but there is the storybook that hit. But so far as I can tell, that was only in England. It doesn't look like we actually got it in the United States until later.
Yeah, there was like a kid's storybook, and then there were a couple slightly older. There was like 3 choose your own adventure type
I've
books.
got 2 of the 3, so
And one of them I love is by R.L. Stein. I was such a
yeah,
Fear Street kid. I loved Fear
yeah.
Street.
R.L. Stein and Christopher Pike were my like.
Yep.
I read like Christopher Pike's last book was 1999, and I went to Walden Books. Like that's where you went, and I got to the point where my Walden Books knew. So they would just, when a new one was coming aside, they would put it aside. When I would come in, they would be like,
Yeah.
Christopher Pike. I'm like, great, let me get that, some Star Wars books, and what do you got happening over here in true crime? Because I was an Anne Rule girly. Like everyone else was discovering like Danielle Still, and it was like Jackie Collins, true crime, R.L. Stein.
Yeah.
They're doing Netflix is doing The Prom Queen from Fear Street as a movie in a few
I
weeks.
saw that.
I'm excited.
What did you think of the Fear Street movies?
I so I think I even commented that because you did a video on them, and I think I even commented on this. Like also, I think I was opposite you, where it's like you really liked the last one, and the other two were kind of. I really liked the summer camp one, even though there was stuff that was clearly for today's audiences and how things were handled.
Yeah.
I liked the summer camp. I liked the '90s one, even though it was completely like not accurate to the '90s. I didn't like the story in the '90s one as much. I'm a summer camp slasher fan. Like Sleepaway Camp, The Burning, like all of it. I love all of this. Anytime and there were no I didn't go to like summer camp as a kid. It was always this scary thing because I grew up in the age of Friday the 13th. You go to summer camp, you get murdered.
Yeah.
I had a few classmates I wanted them to go to summer camp, but so I really liked the middle one. I'm not a fan of olden time stuff though. Anytime you go back to the 1800s, I'm just like, I get bored really easy.
Yeah.
So
I thought they got better as they went along because I thought there was just some things that,
there is that. The
oh,
writing got better, the acting got better, but
yeah.
I just didn't connect to that last story as much. But it's the same with the books that those are based on. The Fear Street books, those were all pulled from different books. And
Yeah.
that one that was sort of set in the olden times. It was pretty faithful to the like it was, I think, 666 Fear Street was the sub series, and I
Yeah.
just didn't connect as much to that one even as a kid. Yeah, and sci-fi started it from the beginning, Alex. So, oh, I did drag for charity, and mine was Anita Buffet.
I love that.
When I was at Blockbuster, I had a employee who was she was in the middle of a divorce, but because of the way things work, she wasn't divorced, so her legal name was her husband's name, and that's what she had to be on the paperwork, and it was Anita Man. And she would get so mad because like people would call and like ask for Anita Man, and we would give the phone to her, even though it was a prank. And yeah, so she had it. And then I also had a friend, her name was Amanda Backman, and then she got married to a guy whose last name was Cox, so she was Anita Backman Cox. And so, and one of them is very conservative, stick up their butt Christian about everything. So it delights me that one of them has the most drag queen name you will ever hear.
Yeah.
So
And I like names that are just kind of weird. Like I loved like on Drag Race they had Milk. I
Milk
love that.
was
I love things like
interesting.
Karen from Finance
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
I
kind
like that one too.
oh, I love it. And I thought if I have like a late in life drag reinvention, I think my drag name is just gonna be Madam President.
Oh, that would be fun.
I
Well,
think
and
I'm just gonna
like
go by that.
I can picture a whole routine just by you saying that name. Like, there's a whole vibe that goes with it. A whole like, you definitely have to add some Julia Louis Dreyfus to it, though.
Yeah.
A little that whole scene with her and Stephanie Weir, where she's like, just trashes her. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I would
I,
have to find out where black women get those beautiful like skirted suits that they wear to church
mhm,
that have the matching elaborate hats. And I'm like,
yeah,
that would become my new persona. I would be
that
Madam
would be really
President. I
good.
would just have
Madam,
skirted suits with matching hats.
you would have to like the giant, as big as you could get it, like
Yep.
whitest broom ever. That would be cool. No, that would be really good. I'm there for it. No, I used to do, and this, of course, is a drag thing. Now, I don't know if it was then, but whenever I was trying to be an actress, one of my, well, I also would do the monologue, Piper Laurie's monologue from Carrie, the one with having to break, and I loved it, all that dirty touch. I'm going to tell you, in the South, no matter what drama department you're in, that is a showstopper, and not necessarily in the way you want it to be. And I would do the Mrs. Voorhees, like, Jason was my son, and today is his birthday. I was just playing for the wrong crowd. But I also, when I moved to Austin, auditioned, and I did two of the Terminator speeches from Sugar Baker. We know exactly who you are, Ray Dawn. And then the night the lights went out in Georgia, and then it's
Yes,
become
that
this
is my
big.
go-to audition monologue. Is I
That has
always
become
do
like
The night the lights went out in Georgia.
And that, Marjorie, so you will know.
Just
And
so you will know, and your children will someday know, is the night the lights went out in Georgia.
Oh, iconic. I loved that. Yep. So anyway, I was just, again, playing for the wrong crowd. I should have been trying to be an actress in drag bars, obviously. Because all of that would have landed. But
that was so good. And then I auditioned for Company and didn't get in because
Aw.
even though it's my bucket list role, and even though I'm not a Joanne type, and so I'm just gonna have to put on my own production, I think. But
Oh, yeah.
I did Betty Davis from All About Eve. When there's a scene where Eve gets Betty Davis's best friend to like get the gas out of the car, take the gas out of the car so that she's late, so that Eve has to go on. And while they're stranded, her boyfriend goes to go get gas or get help, and she's talking to her best friend who kind of goes into this whole thing about being a woman, and that's the one thing all females have in common at the end of the day, being a woman. And it's just this like dark monologue where she's like, and at the end you just, if you don't have it's the very dark, like if you don't have a man, you just turn over
Right.
in bed and look across the dinner table. If you don't have that, you're not a woman. You're just something with a French provincial office and a book full of clippings.
Oh my
And then she
gosh.
like pulls a drag on her cigarette and she goes, slow curtain, the end. And I just love that monologue.
That's good. I've only seen All About Eve like once or twice, so
Oh, I love it.
obviously that didn't hit. Oh my god, that's good. Let's see. So if things don't work out here, I'll sell the house. When Matt dies, I'll sell the house and pack up and move to North Dakota, and we'll start a weird, campy drag
There you go.
drama company, and it'll be reenacting, because everyone's doing the Golden Girl reenactments. Nobody's doing Sugar Bakers. Like, where's our Designing
Yeah.
Women traveling show? But yeah, no. We are almost at 2 hours, Janessa.
Yay.
So we should start wrapping up. I'm obviously not going to finish this today. Got close, but it's just so Laura is so awesome. But anyway, so I'm going to put you main screen really quick so you can show everyone what you finished today.
Yeah.
Make me look bad with all your completes.
I also picked ones that were like a big format. So I got a lot of done on Jade. I was just starting to work on the hair.
I love the green.
So yeah, I should have more greens, but as I was going through, I realized that like 3 of the green markers have dried out. So we had a limited green selection, but I think she still came out pretty good. And then we have Ms. Pac-Man.
Amazing. That looks really good. Like, I really like how you did the star.
Yeah, I was like, I'm using a lot of yellow. So it's like, we'll just do the outline.
Well, that's how you do glow effects. It's a glow effect, Janessa, Jaye.
And then we've got Twilight in Paris.
Yeah, there's the fashion and fame, you guys, right there.
Yep, with the like stocking. We added the stocking that wasn't there.
With a little heart.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Janessa Jaye herself is also fashion and fame. So.
Well, I was like, should I cheat? Should I just go up and like do my makeup and like this is what I color? But I was like, no, I want to color actual things.
I would not have hated that. Actually, I would have thought that was really fun. So
maybe that'll be a future
next
episode.
time, if you want, we'll do that. Even the surface of all the things. And speaking of, where can people find you, Janessa Jaye?
Yes, so I have a channel here on YouTube, which is Janessa Jaye Champagne. I'm North Dakota's trash queen of glam, geek, and gore. So come check out makeup content, horror content, geeky toy content, random things that I just think will be funny to film and all that kind of stuff. I'm on Instagram most often. So you can find me on Instagram at Janessa Jaye Official. When I joined Instagram, I don't know what I was thinking, but I was like, well, I have to put official in case there's all these knockoffs, as if anybody's gonna... An identity thief tried to steal my identity and they gave it back with a muffin basket. So I don't know what I was thinking, but and I'm also on Facebook. I do some unboxings and stuff, but I'm kind of weaning off of Facebook. So probably don't find me there. And I refuse to be on Twitter anymore.
I think my
So
Twitter account is still live. I mean, like it's still there. I have not used it because it's just who can deal with the bots. I dropped the link to Janessa's channel in the
yay.
chat. It's also in the description of the video. Please go follow her because again, and go watch the Golden Girls stuff and the other things. But I know most of you here are first primarily gonna go watch the unboxing of the Palace of Gems.
Yes, if
That
you are a Golden Girl fan and you haven't watched the unboxing of Palace of Gems, that's I was like I wanted that toy so bad and I was like if I'm
yeah,
going to spend this much money on it, I have to like create a video. Like
make it
this
content.
toy is so hard to find. It's hard to find in good condition with all the
Hmm.
pieces. I was like this is something I need to record for the internet so that people can see
Yeah.
everything.
Well, it's a grail item for most of us who
Yeah.
collect most anything from that time frame. So like the fact that and also what's good about that video is if you're looking to buy one and you have to piecemeal it, you also know exactly what should be in there because it's an actual sealed, never opened version. So
Yeah.
lots of reasons to go check it out other than just supporting Janessa and what you do. Which
Yeah, come
again,
watch.
I'm
We have
appreciative.
fun.
Yeah. And oh, Halloween's a few months away, but I'm gonna assume you're gonna do your Halloween content again this year.
Yeah, I'm kind of trying to think. I've been getting really into there are a few companies that do like colorful foundations.
Yeah.
And the most viewed video on my channel is when I looked at two different brands, the yellow foundation, and I kind of turned myself into a Simpsons character. So I'm kind of
Nice.
thinking of some like fun makeup looks using these colorful foundations. We might do like an Elphaba look, do a
Ooh,
green
I would like
face. We might do a purple Smurfette kind of look. So yeah.
that. Ooh, Smurfs is good too. Yeah, no, do it. So Janessa J has got you guys. Go check it out. And it's not your normal toy tube content, it's Janessa content. It's just Janessa J's world we live in it.
Yeah.
I think
Yes,
I've
I
shown
and
that
I
in some
just
of
did
them.
Motu Classics. Yep, I saw that. So we did I have a classic Shira video that's going to be coming at some point. My Shira collection is not as impressive as my Motu Classics collection and some other things. So it'll come, but it's in the works. And then the next toy videos that I'm going to be filming are gem.
Oh my
So this
gosh,
is
she's so
the
good.
Loyal Subjects gem doll that I picked up at Walmart. But I'm going to be doing the full classics line, the full like all of the dolls that I have, all the accessories and all the fashions. So we're going to have some gem
Nice.
content coming to my website
I'm in.
to my channel soon. You can also, I can't believe this is why I'm terrible at remembering to market things because I also have my own website, which is janessaj.com. And I have a lot of posts that go along with videos that kind of add additional stuff, additional images. And I have photo galleries there of me all tarted up, looking cute. And so some blog type things, some articles. We have lots of makeup content, all kinds of fun stuff. So,
Check it out. There's plenty for you to go watch. And since you've all obviously watched all of my content, you need some content to go watch.
yeah. I'm very excited for this. This doll is amazing.
Yeah.
And I saw that they previewed a pizzazz and a glitter and gold gem. And
Yep.
so I hope they do a whole line. I hope they stick with it, but I'm glad I'm getting pizzazz.
I'm gonna get another gem. Um, I'm trying to wait because my local Walmart has not been getting a lot of them, so I want to try to
Mm.
make sure people get their chance. But I'm gonna get another one soonish so that I can rip her hair out and then do a proper Jerica. Because at this stage, it could
Yeah.
be 2 years before the loyal subjects gives me a proper Jerica, and I need the little swoopy bob bang thing. So, and
Yeah.
she is Alex. She is.
She's
All
truly
right.
outrageous.
Really quick, what I've got coming up is a lot. So as always, guys, they're shorts. Check them out. Time lapse coloring. This week we'll go live. I've got another. It'll premiere. I've got another. I tried these pencils, so you don't have to. And I'm going to tell you guys, this is the first time I've done one of these videos where I really hope none of you buy the item because they made me so angry. Doesn't often happen. I couldn't find anything good about these pencils other than I got to stop using them when I stopped filming the video. So, not my normal jam, but hey, Star Wars is coming up. So I'm going to have a lot of Star Wars content for May. I also will be filming probably, I think it's this week. I'm filming an episode of Toy Geeks podcast with Jake Glatfelter and Dan Larson. I am the researcher there, so it's kind of like I've got my foot in, but I'll actually be on the episode, and we're talking about Power of the Force 1998, Part 1, where we're going to talk about the Princess Leia collection, which is where Kenner tried to do little action figure dolls of Princess Leia. And since probably none of you remember that, we see how successful that was. So, so it's going to be a salty Star Wars week, you guys. But lots of Star Wars content. I also recently picked up one of my holy grails, which is the Kenner Dip Dots Man from Atlantis, previously considered to be never produced. It was, and I have one. So that video will be coming. So anyway, with all of that, in a world where you can be anything, be a bitch. No, just kidding. Be kind. Unless they deserve the bitch. Sometimes you need to bitch it up.
That's right. I always tell people, have the day you deserve.
Exactly. We love this for you. That's my new curse is I hope you get diarrhea while you're stuck in traffic and there's no exit and you don't make it home on time. Yeah. And I love that for you. So on that note, we're gonna head out. Thank you all for hanging out. Thank you for being so amazingly welcoming to Janessa Jaye, since she's my first guest you guys don't know. So
Yay. Yes, it was lovely. I hope I caught most of the chat.
I think we stay pretty on top of it, and if not, well, it'll work out. And
it'll work out.
I'm gonna make Janessa Jaye come back because I had too much fun. So and on that note,
yeah, we have to color again.
Yeah. All right, let's get okay. So yeah, this way we can make whatever face we want as we leave. We don't get standard